The mornings are definitely colder and the smell of autumn lingers ever so longer. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to An Nur the Light. Prince Albert in the Karoo is our first stop for this week, where we visit with local blacksmith Kaashief Booley. He's made this small town his home and place of work.
The small town of Prince Albert in the Western Cape is well known as a home to artists and craftspeople. In 2011, Kaashief Booley from Boerkaap in Cape Town decided he had enough of city life and uprooted his whole family to move here.
Growing up in the city, I was always attracted by the mountain and the sea and got a bit tired of all that, the concrete jungle. And we did a road trip and discovered the beautiful village of Prince Albert and fell in love with it. And to my surprise, I decided to be brave enough and do this move here because we believed it'd be good quality of life for us as a family, especially our two young girls growing up.
Kaashief is a self-taught and trained blacksmith with a global reputation for delivering quality products. He set up a small workshop on the periphery of the small town, and the rest is history.
We call ourselves today artist blacksmiths, and basically blacksmithing is one of the oldest trades in the world. It's also what makes it interesting. It's it's the only trade that works with the four elements of nature. And you apply the four elements and you're the fifth. People commission me to do decorative metalwork. That would entail functional art. Basically anything made out of metal. I think what the blacksmith does basically at the end of the day is manipulate steel to whatever shape he wants. And that's in a nutshell. So I've got a workshop full of tools and jigs and stuff, and that's how I apply my trade.
Even though he's so far from the city, orders continue to pile up, and every morning Kaashief jumps on his bike and cycles the kilometers to work.
I think it was tough. A lot of my work is still in Cape Town. Luckily for me, my work allows me to be able to set up shop anywhere. I've sort of built a reputation up for myself, and people are comfortable with it. So I still have a lot of my old clients. And also moving to a village like Prince Albert, I've been labeled the village blacksmith, which is quite amazing. For my family, it's been absolutely amazing. My girls, my two daughters, they absolutely love Prince Albert. They love being out here. They get to walk barefoot and live a country lifestyle, something that I'm still trying to get used to because I'm a bit of a city freak. I miss the city. But yeah, as I said, I get a lot of our work still in Cape Town. So for me, it's been difficult, but for my family, I don't think they're keen on moving out of here anytime soon.
Blacksmithing is one of the oldest trades in the world. Their craft is honed over years, and many master blacksmiths remains trainees until the day they hang up their tools.
What would happen is a client will get hold of me. Say, for example, they want me to design up a chandelier for them. I'll design the chandelier, or they come with a reference and I work from the reference. Lots of times people, they want something unique and individual, something that's not been done before. So that's where I come in and I say, okay, I'll take my designing skills and I come up with something that suits their need. And then I set the process in motion where I manufacture and a lot of the tools are quite old. Unfortunately, in South Africa, blacksmithing is not as popular as in Europe and in the States. So we have to import tools. But being a blacksmith, you learn to make your own tools. And sometimes when you're faced with a situation where you have to do a job that has never been attempted before, you got to start from scratch. You got to make the tools to make the tools to make the job.
Training is very important to Kaashief, and over the years he's managed to pass on his skills to many young people. His latest apprentice is a local from the township nearby.
I've taken on a new apprentice. Her name's Jackie. She's been here for a week, so she's basically fresh. And it's exciting because I haven't had a woman as an apprentice before. And one of the challenges of being a blacksmith is you have to be strong. the work's quite physical, so it'd be interesting to see how she copes. Hopefully, I think she's got it in her to be good at what she wants to do, but still in the early stages. So to be able to do this job alone, I can, but it's time-consuming. That means I've got to sometimes make certain tools to hold something down for me, whereas if I have a person, they just make my job a lot easier. And also, I'm putting back, I'm providing them with knowledge and skill that can, hopefully they'll be able to use someday.
Home is where the heart is, and Kaashief has managed to not only make this a reality, but is also able to have a job that fulfills him. The words of poet Khalil Gibran springs to mind when we see Booley, as he is affectionately known. Work is love made visible.
Every week, we journey the length and breadth of this country to bring you uplifting and inspiring content. Durban is a creative hub of note, and we met some brothers and sisters who are oozing talent.
Durban has gone from being viewed as just a holiday destination to a more vibrant cosmopolitan city with plenty to offer. As a city filled with artistic flair, it's no wonder that Durban's creative community is flourishing.
Durban has probably influenced my creativity quite a lot. I have been wanting to do more projects that are more specifically Durban focused, and picking up the aspects of Durban that I particularly enjoy and highlighting those aspects that I think people don't often know about. So in that regard, in terms of the content, I think it has influenced my work a bit.
Graphic designer, illustrator and hand letterer Fatima Katrada has her own studio in one of Durban's creative hubs.
I studied graphic design, and I never really thought of myself as an illustrator or an artist or anything like super creative. I was very much just a designer. And then as I started applying for different jobs and things, people would comment on my illustration and say things like, I really like your illustration, or you're a good illustrator. And then I thought, well, if people are saying that, then maybe I am an illustrator. So I kind of started moving more in that direction and experimenting a bit more and just playing with things. And I've done some editorial illustration. I use my illustration a lot for wedding invitations and things like that. I've recently done illustration on the window of a new boutique store in Durban. I'm trying to break out of the norms of how you usually see illustration and design, and trying to apply it to new mediums and make people see it in a new light.
Mohammed Vauda, better known as Mo, is a proudly Muslim Indian Durbanite who happens to be a lecturer, academic and comedian.
I studied for 13 years of my life. I worked for 5 of them while I was studying. And then I applied for a job and they said, wow, you're amazing. You should come and do some lecturing. So I said, okay, cool. I am lecturing the master's students research methods too, yeah. My entire life, my mom was like, hey, go in front, at celebrations. Go in front, just make them laugh. Just do something, dance, sing, monkey, So I used to do that. And then one day, in a crowd of my friends, I saw the sign in the coffee shop here at the university that said, do you think you're funny? And I looked at the poster and I said, yes. And they said, WhatsApp this number. So I took the number, I WhatsApped the number, and the guy said, in a day's time, you need to have a 5-minute set at this really dingy place that has nothing to do with comedy. So I looked at him and I was like, of course I'm going to do that, And then I did my first set and it was amazing. I never looked back after that, yeah.
Please put your hands together for the marvelous Mo Vauda.
Mo's career is just taking off, and the Durban community is loving the flavor that he brings to the comedy scene.
That's why Indian people, we can never become gangster rappers, sir. Can you imagine that? We'd be like... E, mama.
In terms of the Durban scene, we are growing this creative arts feel in Durban, and I think it's going to be amazing. Durbanites are not used to it as yet. They're still finding their feet and coming to shows, and it is growing, so we hope that they grow with us. Yeah.
A popular art form in Durban's Indian community is henna art. Husna Kaji sees the practice as a spiritual experience deeply rooted in her religion and culture.
Henna is a traditional practice within lots of Indian and African cultures that involves creating designs on the body as a symbol of celebration. Personally, when I started, I had no idea what I was doing, but my intention was to always create something that was beautiful and to create designs which really represented my client and which really made them happy and made them feel the celebration of whatever they were celebrating represented in the designs that were done on them. Durban is also the Indian hub of South Africa, so with all of the Indian culture and influence within Durban, it's given me so many people to work with, so many interesting people to meet and be inspired by. I think I have within me and within the henna designs that I create the real Durban flavor.
Durban's creative spices truly add some flavor to the art world. As artists and performers continue to flourish, they are creating a new identity for the city with a history of cultural, artistic influences.
The Quran remains the guide for Muslims the world over, and the idea of our tafsir segment is to help our viewers become close to it. Let's have a listen to what they have to say.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا صدق الله العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you. The verses so beautifully recited were from chapter 17 of the Holy Quran, verse 8 to 11. It speaks of a few important things. It firstly addresses the fact that mercy, divine mercy, is there for the taking. All it requires of us is to make better choices in life. If we return to old ways, we cannot expect different results. We have to learn from our past, learn from our mistakes, and try to do better for better results. It speaks of guidance, and that guidance is there without force. The Holy Quran is the only religious scripture that mentions or that highlights that there is no forcing in deen, la ikraha fi deen. It's there for the taking as well. And it mentions the fact that glad tidings are there for those who accept guidance and who condition their lives according to the guidance. Last but in no way least, it speaks about man's innate haste, man's desire for things almost immediately. Self-gratification is the order of the day, and instead of pacing oneself and planning better for better outcomes, we live in the moment, and what it may result in is regret. There is no benefit in temporary pleasure that results in eternal regret. Al-ajlatu min al-shaytan wa ta'anni min al-rahman. Haste is negative. However, pacing oneself and planning better, that is or will result in divine mercy. There's nothing that haste results in but regret, whereas working towards wholesome outcomes will result in peace and success and joy. May we all pace ourselves better. May we all be guided towards clarity in thought so as to make better decisions regarding life, and may we all become deserving of divine mercy. Ameen. Amen. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I must admit, Lamise's easy recipes have saved me on so many days while I was away. It really is simple to make, and I've enjoyed myself a whole lot while making good food. Come see her shrimp Arabiatta.
Assalamu alaikum. So pizza, pasta, anything Italian is always a firm favorite. And today I'm going to be sharing my pasta Arabiatta recipe with you, this time made with prawns. And the ingredients that we need for this are the following. I've got 800 grams of prawns, and these have been shelled and deveined. It just makes pasta that much easier to eat. And our aromatics for this recipe is 2 tablespoons of garlic. I've used the garlic paste. I've got 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I've got 1 heaped teaspoon of dried basil. You can use fresh basil, it's always nicer, but you get the intensity of flavor from the dried basil. And then I've got some red crushed chilies. Then I've got 1 tin, and that's the 410 gram tin of diced peeled tomatoes, but keep the juices. And then I've got 1 onion that's been finely cubed. I've got a little bit of salt, just for taste, and a little bit of sugar, just to take the edge off the tomato, some fresh Italian flat leaf parsley for garnish, and then of course our oil for frying. As you know, with any seafood, before you start frying it, always add just a little bit of salt, and this just helps to plump it up and to help it maintain its juices so you don't get that dry bit of fish or seafood. Salt, give this a quick mix. And then into my pan goes my oil. And now we're going to start frying our prawns. So I'm going to place them into the pan one by one, making sure that you don't overcrowd your pan, because then what's going to happen is they're just going to boil. So as I'm going to cook these in batches, I'm going to put them in the plate, keep them to one side, and then we're going to start making our sauce. And believe it or not, these can come out. And in the same pan that we've just fried our prawns, I'm going to add a little bit of oil, and we're going to start sauteing our onions. Now, this is probably the bit that takes the longest with an Arabiatta if you're using the tin tomatoes, because you really want to make sure that you saute your onions until they're nice and caramelized. So that's about a cup of onions. And to this, I'm going to add just a sprinkling of salt, just to egg on the cooking process. Okay, so my onions are nicely sauteed and caramelized, and now I'm going to add my chopped peeled tomatoes, and now we just start building our sauce. So to this, I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And now we're going to add our dried parsley. So this is about a heaped teaspoon of dried parsley. You can use the fresh variety, and you can even garnish with the fresh basil afterwards. And then is my teaspoon of crushed red chili. Now again, depending on how hot you like it, add more, add less. I always like it hot, and you could even add some fresh chilies to this, or even substitute the dried chili for fresh chilies. And then what is an Italian dish without garlic and loads of it? And I'm using 2 tablespoons of garlic paste. And you don't want your garlic to cook for too long, because when garlic burns, it tends to go bitter. And just to take that sour edge off of our tomatoes, I'm going to add literally just a tablespoon of sugar. And then, of course, some salt to taste. And that essentially is nearly the end of your Arabiatta sauce. The only thing we need to do now is reintroduce our prawns so that the sauce and the prawns can get to know each other again. I'm gonna add all of that. And make sure that they get a good coating and every little morsel is flavoursome. And I'm gonna serve this up family style. So what I've got cooked and ready is my fusilli pasta. I'm gonna place this in a large bowl, and this way everybody just gets to help themselves. And onto my pasta, I'm adding all of my prawns with the sauce, pour that over the top. And to finish, all this needs is a sprinkling of fresh Italian parsley, and if you like, slivers of Parmesan cheese. And there we have it, Italian family style. So until next time, ciao bella.
Ooh, that looked so yummy. Sometimes I just want to grab a bowl through the screen. It's once again time for me to go, but remember, we'll be back next week. Ke nna Mariam Mkwanda, ke re a re bue re bonaneng gape. Assalamu alaikum.